Today, you'll learn 8 more colloquial expressions so that you can sound more like a native speaker and take your colloquial English to the next level. Welcome to
Aprender Inglés con Reza y Craig.
Hi, I'm Reza.
And my name's Craig.
And with 50 years of teaching between us, we'll help you improve your English and take it up to the next level. How are you, Craig?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm suffering a little bit with the weather over here in Valencia, Spain. It's July when we're recording this, 2021, and it's very, very hot. How are you coping and managing with the heat?
I feel the same as you. It's difficult. It's testing. But I guess it could be worse. We could be in the middle of winter in Alaska and freezing to death. So
sounds quite nice to me at the moment.
Yeah, it's true. It is appealing. We can shelter where we have a fan or air conditioning. So it's bearable. But boy, it's hot.
Well, we've got 8 common colloquial expressions, part 4. So some more useful expressions to make you sound more like a native speaker. But before that, we're going to listen to a voice message from our friend Erasmo from Brazil.
Hello, Craig. Hello, Reza. It's Erasmo from Brazil. Here I am. To begin, I'd like to thank you both for your kindness on putting my short message on your podcast 371. Thank you a lot. Since I discovered your website, English Podcast, in the beginning of this year, I've been listening to your podcast, at least one of them per day, walking on the streets, driving my car, or doing physical exercise in the academy. They are very useful in my English learning process. They have been making a huge difference to me. That's why I've often listened to them. Focus on reaching C1 level. I hope to get there soon. Your work as podcaster have been helping many people to improve their English learning process. Your job doesn't only help people, but it's funny and enjoyable too. It's the right recipe for learning English, isn't it? Congratulations for your great job as podcasters. Greg and Reza are the good ones teaching English. Thank you both. Feel free to point my mistakes and help me to correct them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Erasmo, for your message, and we understood everything you said. It was very clear, but I think, Reza, we can help Erasmo with 1 or 2 things to improve it, can't we?
Erasmo, it was a very good message, and I understood everything, but Craig's quite right. Of course, there are often a few things we could improve. You had a classic mistake. You said, I've been listening your podcast. So we got to work on that because it's a very obvious mistake. It's not a big mistake, but it's very obvious. I've been listening to your podcast. When you say what you're listening to, you have to add the word to. Listening to your podcast.
And 2 pronunciation issues, Erasmo. You said, I think you added an extra syllable to the word useful. It sounded like useful. So you don't pronounce the E. The correct pronunciation, only 2 syllables, useful. It's really useful. And the second one is the word recipe, 3 syllables. I know you're a Portuguese speaker, but it's receta in Spanish. Perhaps it's similar in Portuguese, I'm not sure. Recipe. When you cook food, you need to follow the recipe. For a successful podcast, you also need a good recipe of things inside the podcast. And I liked your tag question. You used a very effective tag question when you use the word recipe. It's the right recipe for learning English, isn't it? So well done on the correct use of that tag question. If any listeners would like to practice tag questions, we did speak about those back in episode 20. Go to inglespodcast.com/20 and you can learn to use tag questions as effectively as Erasmo.
Another little mistake about prepositions before we had listened to your podcast. You said, Erasmo, congratulations for your great job. But it's more typical to collocate the preposition on with congratulations. So you should say, congratulations on your great job. And there's another little mistake with prepositions. Oh, those prepositions are tricky, aren't they? You said, feel free to point my mistakes. I think you mean, feel free to point out my mistakes. Point out. If you point something out, that means you identify it. You point it out.
I did notice, Erasmo, how effectively you used your verb tenses. For example, you said has been helping when you spoke about how the podcast has been helping you with your English. So your verb tenses, you used your verb tenses, Erasmo, very, very well.
I wonder if you meant to say something which, if you didn't, makes me sound a bit big-headed. Let me explain. You said that...
What does big-headed mean?
Big-headed means vain, yeah? Feeling vanity, that I think I'm better than I am. You know, I'm big-headed. Erasmus said, you are the good ones. Thank you very much. You were talking about podcasters and you said, you are the good ones. But did you perhaps mean, although it sounds big-headed, you are the best ones? Because best is the superlative of good. Because it doesn't really make sense to say you are the good ones. Like that means that everybody else is the bad ones.
Unless you're comparing us with bad ones.
Yeah, it's like but more than that, it's like you're the good ones, like means like all the others are bad, you know. They're the good ones. The other ones, they're the bad ones. You might mean that, I don't know. Or are you saying, although it's very big-headed for me to think it, that we are the best ones, los mejores? I don't know. I'm just wondering if you made a mistake there or not. But maybe you didn't. Maybe you didn't make a mistake. Maybe it's me being too big-headed and vain.
Maybe he meant the worst ones.
It could well be that.
We also received an email from Romina recently, and Romina found the podcast just 2 weeks ago and listens every day on the way to work. An excellent way of multitasking and improving your English. When you're commuting, which is traveling to and from your place of work, why not listen to this podcast and improve your English? And Romina says, I'm having a difficult time knowing when to use the simple past or the present perfect. And Romina gives some examples. Yesterday, I ate a lot of fruit. Yesterday, I have eaten a lot of fruit. Now, one of those is not correct, Reza. Which one?
The second one is incorrect.
Yeah, because we like to use time expressions. That's the key. That's the secret you have to listen for and use with some of these verb tenses. So if you wanted to say, Romina, I have eaten a lot of fruit, you really need to specify the time period. So you could say, for example, I have eaten a lot of fruit this week, or I have eaten a lot of fruit today, or I have eaten a lot of fruit lately. So from the past up until now, when the time is not finished, that's when you use the present perfect. But yesterday has finished, it's in the past, so it's correct to say yesterday I ate a lot of fruit. And Romina gave 2 more examples, Reza.
Yes, she said, I have worked in 2 companies and I worked in 2 companies. They're both possible, but they have different meanings. As Craig explained, if you say I worked in 2 companies, it's past simple, it's finished. It happened in the past. It's got nothing to do with now. But if you say I have worked in 2 companies, well, okay, you don't work in the companies now, but it's relevant to now. So you're saying from the past up to now, I have worked in 2 companies.
And the second example, Romina would very often go with time expressions. For example, I worked in 2 companies, past simple. I worked in 2 companies when I lived in Madrid, for example. Or I worked in 2 companies last year. Or I worked in 2 companies after I left school. All of those time expressions refer to past time that has finished and is not connected to now. And Romina also said that these are just examples. Actually, I almost never know when to use any of them. We do realize that it's confusing, and we have done podcasts about this. Now, we did a podcast with our friend Bea back in episode 18. So go to inglespodcast.com/18 and you will learn about the present perfect, simple and continuous and when to use those verb tenses. So you get 3 professional teachers for the price of 1. And there was another episode, wasn't there, Reza?
Also, we talked about present perfect, past simple, as well as gerunds and infinitives in episode 319. So if you go to inglespodcast.com/319, you will see what we're talking about there. We're talking about things like what did they say, what have they said, where were you, where have you been. All that type of grammar is back in episode 319.
And thank you for your email, Romina. So this episode we're going to focus on 8 common colloquial expressions that we hope you'll find useful to improve your naturally sounding colloquial English. What's the first one, Reza?
The first one is a very important expression. You'll hear it a lot. No worries. No worries. Now, that could mean that you don't have any stress in your life. I have no worries. Could mean that. But very often it's used simply as a short answer to show that there's no problem, that's all right. For example, if I ask someone, can you help me, please? Have you got 5 minutes to help me? They might say, no worries. They're saying that it's not a problem to help me. That maybe they have some worries in their life. That's not what they're talking about. Maybe they have big problems in their life. But in that response to that specific situation, they're saying that it's all right, it's no problem. Yes, they can help me. No worries.
I really like that expression, and I think I first became aware of it. I first noticed it from Australian English. It's very common in Australia to say no worries, which for an English speaker would be don't worry about it, it's okay. And I often use it when people apologise to me. So if Reza said to me, oh, Craig, I'm sorry I'm late, I say, oh, no worries, it's okay. Or if he said, I'm sorry I spilt some wine on your tablecloth, for example, no worries, forget about it, no worries, it's okay, tranquilo.
And by the way, both of those examples are fairly common.
That's why I use them.
Me being late and me spilling the wine.
No worries.
If he wanted to, Craig could say, not a problem. It's similar to no worries, not a problem. He could even say, no bother. Yes, so instead of no worries, no bother. Would you use that one much? No bother?
I wouldn't. I would use no worries, and I do use no worries a lot. Although no bother is common, it's just not an expression I would typically use.
And if I were to say to you, and forgive the bad accent, nae bother, where might I be from?
Or you're definitely from Scotland if you say that.
For me, that's a very, very, very extremely Scottish thing to say. It's one of the most Scottish expressions you'll ever hear.
But the meaning's the same, right?
Meaning is the same as no worries, not a problem, no bother. But in Scotland, many things which are negative, which would be in standard English no, in Scottish English they say nae, nae bother.
Our next expression is very useful if you're very, very annoyed or angry. Imagine your neighbours are really noisy and you're trying to record a podcast. And there's chairs moving upstairs and there's a baby crying in the next flat and it's just very noisy. I might say, Reza, I've had it up to here. I'm going to ask them to be quiet. So I've had it up to here. Now, I'm not sure what here actually means. Does it mean to the top of your head or up to where? I don't know. But that expression up to here is when I'm completely annoyed and angry and I can't take it anymore.
Well, I can translate exactly in Spanish where it is. I've had it up to here. It's hasta aquí. Because you say the same in Spanish. Ya te tengo hasta aquí.
Pero ¿dónde está aquí?
Está aquí.
¿Está aquí?
So it's exactly the same in English. We say we've had it up to here and you say hasta aquí. You say exactly the same. But where is here? We're not quite sure. But it means you're rather annoyed.
A similar expression in English, that does it. That does it. When you're really angry and suddenly you take action. So that does it. I'm going to speak to the neighbours, for example. An example for me personally is I park my car in the street, and here in Valencia, when people park, they often hit the car in front when they're parking, and then they reverse the car and they hit the car behind. And of course, that slightly damages the car. And you may think, well, it's no big problem, it's no big deal. Well, not if it happens once or twice, but over time, it scrapes and scratches the paint of your car. And I've had it up to here. That's it.
There's one more slight variation. Instead of saying that does it, you could say that's it. It's very often preceded by the word right. Right. That's it. That does it. I've had it up to here. My translation of that in Spanish would be ya está. When a Spanish person in Spain, I'm not sure if it's the same in South America, but here in Valencia, when a Spanish person has had enough, they say ya está. Ya está bien. No more. That does it right. That's it.
It's the intonation in Spanish as well that makes it clear that
Because compared to
you've passed the line.
Ya está bien. Ya está bien. Qué bueno. Ya está bien. Ya está bien.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. That does it.
I've had it up to here. That does it. Our next expression is don't mind if I do, or I don't mind if I do. When we do not pronounce or do not say one of the words, that's quite common. So it's not grammatically correct to write don't mind if I do, but we very often say it, and we are not saying the pronoun I. So I don't mind if I do, or don't mind if I do. When would we use that, Reza?
Whenever somebody has offered you something and you're accepting it, a way of saying, yes, please, would you like another piece of cake? You've already had one piece. Would you like another piece of cake?
Is it chocolate?
It's chocolate.
Don't mind if I do.
You see, he likes it, yeah? So it's very common to accept something that's been offered to you. And particularly if you, not necessarily, but very often, if you're repeating, right? It's not necessarily, but very often it's like, oh, do you enjoy the cake? Oh, yes, very much. Would you like another piece? Don't mind if I do. Excusing yourself for accepting the hospitality.
Do you fancy another beer, Reza?
Don't mind if I do.
Would you like another biscuit?
Well, I've already had 5 biscuits. So in this case, I'm going to say, if you don't mind, because this is a variation now, but I realize that Craig might be getting annoyed now because there are only 7 biscuits on the plate and I've eaten 5 of them and he hasn't eaten any of them. So I could say, I don't mind if I do, but I'm going to say in this time, if you don't mind, it's like, you sure? No problem. Or if you're sure you don't mind.
No worries. Sometimes someone might come to you in English and say, listen, I need to tell you something. Or I've got something really important to tell you. What could you say in reply to that?
Ooh, I'm all ears.
You're all ears.
I'm all ears.
Everything about you is ears.
Everything about me. In other words, the only thing that interests me right now is listening to what Craig has to say. I'm all ears.
I've got some really interesting gossip about our boss.
Ooh, I'm all ears. Go ahead.
So use I'm all ears when you're listening intently to what the person is about to say. Tell me, I'm all ears.
Now, Craig, if for the 5th time in a week, somebody did damage your car by parking, and I can see you getting really angry, I might have to say to you, Craig, keep your shirt on. Keep your shirt on. Yeah, they've damaged your car, but it is not the end of the world. It's very, very slight damage. You can barely see it. Keep your shirt on. In other words, be patient. Don't be annoyed or just wait a minute. That type of thing. Asking for patience or calm.
Or calm down, yeah. Just calm down. Keep your shirt on. Keep your hair on. Where do you think that comes from? Keep your hair on. Because hair is always on your head, isn't it?
It doesn't usually just drop out just like that, does it? But it probably goes way back to the time of wigs, when both men and women both wore wigs, even if they had their own hair.
What's a wig?
A wig is una peluca, false hair. So in Europe, back in the 18th, 17th century, it was common for people to wear a wig. So I guess if you became really angry or really impatient, you couldn't calm down, you would move about and your wig, your hair, this false hair, could easily fall off. So people used to say, keep your hair on. In other words, don't get so annoyed, don't move around, don't get so aggressive that you're going to make your wig fall off.
So imagine I spilt something on the sofa and my wife says, Craig, go and get a cloth from the kitchen. You've spilt something on the sofa. I might say, keep your hair on. It's only water. It'll dry. Calm down. Keep your hair on. Or keep your shirt on.
There's a similar expression, but you better be careful with it. It could perhaps offend some people. And that is, don't get your knickers in a twist. Have you ever heard that one?
Yes. I think that's typically British, isn't it?
Very
because I don't
British.
think in American English they use the word knickers.
So knickers are informally ladies' underwear.
Panties.
Panties, yeah?
Bragas.
But I would say this equally to a man or a woman. Doesn't have to be a woman. I've said to a man, don't get your knickers in a twist, so it doesn't have to be a woman you say it to. But that's what knickers mean. So I guess it's related to keep your shirt on. If you're getting really upset about something moving about so that you're like, your shirt might come off somehow, the same thing could happen with your knickers, with your panties. So calm down, stop getting so uptight, your knickers might fall off. So don't get your knickers in a twist. Twist is enredado. Stay calm. But I would be careful who I said that one to. That would have to be a good friend and you have a certain amount of a relationship with them. I wouldn't say that one to a stranger, would you?
No, neither would I say keep your shirt on or keep your hair on to someone who I didn't have a close relationship with.
I might say it to someone if they got really aggressive with me.
Yeah.
If they got aggressive to me, if they say, yo, what have you done? You've blocked me off. I was going through the light and you drove in front of me. I'm going to punch you. I might say to them, hey, keep your hair on. But only because they've got aggressive first. I wouldn't immediately say it. But I wouldn't say, don't get your knickers in a twist. I might say that to my mom or my brother or somebody like that, but not to a stranger. But I might dare to say, keep your hair on if somebody was rude to me. I might say it.
If someone asks you a question and you have no idea about the answer, you could say, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. Or how would I know? Or how should I know? Now, this could be used when you want to sound a bit defensive or maybe a little bit abrupt.
As you know, for many years in Valencia, I didn't have a car. Now I do, although I don't use it very much. And so I've been on the buses a lot. Craig, I want to get from your house to the Fay Hospital, and I want to get the quickest route possible. Which combination of buses should I take?
I wouldn't know. I don't have a clue. Sorry.
He wouldn't know. I would, because I'm obsessed with bus routes. But Craig, why should he know? How should he know? What normal person would bother to have that information in their head?
Or if I said to you, how much does a litre of petrol cost in Valencia?
Because I don't drive much, I would say, how would I know? I don't drive. I can tell you how much the bonobus costs, but not a litre of petrol.
Do you know how much petrol costs?
No.
Me neither. No. I wouldn't know.
I really wouldn't know. Search me. Search me.
I put petrol in my car regularly, but I don't look. I should know. No idea.
I know that the bonobus for the AMT in Valencia at this moment in time is $8.50 to get 10 journeys.
I pay €9 and get the transborder.
Oh, you get the transborder one?
Yeah.
Right? Aha. You remember the price. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I remember the price of that, yeah. Our next expression is old school. 2 words, very easy. Old and school. This is usually used in a positive way and sometimes with pride when you're very proud of something. Because when you get to my age and you do something in a particular way and you look at the way the world has changed with technology, it's become very different to what I remember growing up in the UK. If I did something a particular way that is not with technology or maybe might be seen as old-fashioned or traditional, I could say, I'm old school. For example, if Reza said to me, hey, Craig, have you tried this new app for taking notes on the mobile phone? I might say, no, I'm old school. I use pen and paper.
Craig, what do you think about this reggaeton music, which is so popular these days in Valencia?
Oh, I don't like reggaeton. I don't like that at all. When it comes to music, I'm old school. I like 80s rock that's played up with real instruments, with real drums and real electric guitars. What about you?
I'm the same. 80s, maybe even 70s as well. 70s, 80s and 90s. Yeah, old school.
You're
Same
old
as you.
school, yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
Our last expression today is, I can't put my finger on it. Or as we said before, you can omit or remove the pronoun and say, can't put my finger on it, which means I'm not sure about something. Can you think of an example?
Well, in fact, there's something I was supposed to do this afternoon. I have it in the back of my mind, but what is it exactly? Oof, I can't put my finger on it. Somebody told me to buy something for them because I was going to be passing a shop and they asked me to do them a favor. But what was it? I can't put my finger on it. I can't exactly remember what it is I had to buy. Can't put my finger on it.
So you should be more old school and make a note with pen and paper.
Yeah.
Make a list.
That would work.
Imagine you're listening to a song and it's familiar, but you can't remember exactly what the name of the song is. And when I say familiar, that means you've seen it or heard it before. It's not connected to family. Familiar means to suena. It's like it's something that sounds like you'd heard it before, but you can't put your finger on it. You can't say exactly what song it is. So, what have you learned in this episode? We'll quickly go back and say these 8 expressions again. If someone apologizes to you, for example, you could just say, no worries, no bother. Or if you're in Scotland, nae bother.
If something's really annoyed you and you cannot tolerate, you can't accept or endure or suffer it anymore, you can say, I've had it up to here. Or that does it. Or right. That's it.
Someone offers you something, you could say, don't mind if I do.
If somebody wants to tell you something, particularly if it's very interesting, you say to them, I'm all ears. That means I'm listening to you.
If someone's angry at you or someone accuses you of something, you could reply, keep your shirt on or keep your hair on or don't get your knickers in a twist.
If somebody asks you something, and you don't know anything about it, you couldn't answer them, you don't have information about their question, you can say, I wouldn't know. Or perhaps a bit more defensive, you could say, how should I know? Or how would I know? Or perhaps even, search me.
And for something or someone that's old-fashioned or traditional, you could say, I'm old school or it's old school, which is usually positive.
And Craig, what was the last expression?
I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. I'm not exactly sure.
That's it. I can't put my finger on it. Can't put my finger on it. I know there's something, but I can't exactly tell you what it is. Can't remember it exactly.
And now it's your turn to practice English. We would love to hear from you. You can send us a voice message by using our SpeakPipe service. That's speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast. Or if you prefer to contact us by email, you can reach me, Craig, Craig, at inglespodcast.com or Reza at belfastreza, Reza, at gmail.com.
And if you're interested in some further practice, we recommend you have a look at the online store. If you go to store, that's store, store.mansioningles.net, you'll find a variety of interesting material which can help you further improve your English.
And if you enjoyed this podcast, please recommend it to your friends. We would really appreciate it. And before we go, we'd like to thank all of you who are helping us by supporting us on Patreon. You can join our Patreon program for as little as $1.20 per month. That's including VAT. And by doing so, you get instant access to recent transcriptions of these podcasts. For more information, go to patreon.com/inglespodcast. The link, as always, in the show notes at inglespodcast.com/379.
As we always do at the end of every episode, we'd like to thank all our Patreon sponsors, and we'd like to name them all, but we don't have time. So what we do is name the most recent supporters who've joined this month. And who are they, Craig?
They are Edgar Velandia, Ricardo Sendulski, Diana Carolina Martinez Mendez, Floriano Blanco Rodriguez, and Isaac Baena Garcia. We're not sure exactly what we're speaking about next week, but we will be speaking about something. So if you have some ideas for a future episode, please get in touch. Until next time, thank you for listening today. It's goodbye from Reza.
And it's bye-bye from Craig.
The music in this podcast is by Pids. The track is called See You Later.